Good morning, sir.
Good morning. So I have shared my PPT. It's visible to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
sir.
This is what we are discussing in the last lecture, that in the presence of the branch hazard, what is the speed up that we can obtain from the pipeline, and this is what we obtain, that the speed up we is equal to the depth of the pipeline divided by 1 plus the branch frequency into the branch penalty. And this the branch penalty, it comes from both for the conditional branch and the unconditional branch, and in a program the conditional branch mostly dominates. So it all depends upon what is the frequency of the branch instructions, and if a branch occurs, how much penalty that you have to pay. So depending upon the penalty, the branch frequency, it all depends upon how you have coded. It all depends on the programmer, but the branch penalty is built into the system. So higher the penalty, then the speed up that you obtain is going to reduce. Then how to minimize? You cannot minimize the branch frequency because it's all depends on how you are going to write the program. The only thing that the architect or the designer can try to reduce is the branch penalty. If a branch occurs, then how to reduce the branch penalty? Then let's look at some of the techniques to reduce the branch penalty. Now we have discussed our 5-stage pipeline, and in the 5-stage pipeline, the branch is resolved in the instruction decode stage. So you pay a penalty of 1 clock cycle. Now you imagine a processor where the number of stages are is 15 or 16 stages pipeline, or much or more than that. So the processor that has a deeper pipeline, uh, in that case, the penalty that you pay for resolving the branch may becomes too critical. So as the pipeline gets deeper, the potential penalty of the branch increases. So last class I was just explaining that if this is my instruction phase stage, this is the instruction decode, this is the execution stage, memory stage, and write back stage. And in our 5-stage pipeline, we are resolving all the branch in the instruction decode stage. So here already, if this is my branch instruction, then one instruction is there in the pipeline and the branch takes place. So this instruction has to be nullified. So you pay only a 1 clock cycle. Now imagine the pipeline is much deeper, and the branch, instead of resolving in, let's take a some 8-stage pipeline. So imagine we had a 8-stage pipeline, and the branch instead of resolving in the second stage, you resolve it in the 4th stage. So if it's resolved in the 4th stage, so there will be at least 3 equations already in the pipeline, and these 3 equations has to be converted into the no operation. So if the pipeline gets deeper and deeper, the penalty that you are going to pay, earlier we are paying one penalty, only one instruction has to be converted into no operation. Now when the branches are handled much deeper into the pipeline, then more than one instruction has to be converted to no operation. So the penalty that you have to pay is more. So the penalty increases when the pipelines get deeper, and using the delayed branch and the similar schemes become insufficient. Now, what happened in the delayed branch technique? In a delayed branch technique, between the branch instructions, this is branch instruction, and my target, I am putting some useful instructions. Then finding out these useful instructions is always difficult. Now if the in our MIPS pipeline, we pay 1 clock cycle penalty. So at best we are putting only one instruction to reduce that penalty of 1 clock cycle, one useful instruction. So figuring out one useful instruction to compiler comparatively may be easier than if you are losing a 2 clock cycle. Suppose it is done in the memory stage. Let's imagine in the memory stage. So this is instruction fetch, instruction decode. This is instruction fetch. This is in the execution stage. This is in the instruction decode stage, and let's say this is in the instruction fetch. Suppose in our the same 5-stage pipeline, and we assume that the branch are resolved in the memory stage. So imagine this. Just you imagine the branch are resolved in the memory stage. Then I have 3 instructions already in the pipeline. And if the branch takes place, these 3 instructions which are there in the pipeline that need to be converted into no operation. So you need to pay a penalty of 3 clock cycle at this present. Now, in a delayed branch technique, to reduce the branch penalty, these 3 instructions has to be useful instructions, so that this need not be converted into a no operation. So you don't pay a penalty. But finding multiple instructions and putting into the delay slot is extremely difficult. So the delay slot is usually a one delay slot. So these techniques are also not sufficient if the pipeline gets much and much deeper, and branches are resolved at a deeper stages in the pipeline. So need to have some other mechanism to predicting and resolving the branches. So we need a more aggressive means for predicting the branches. And there are 2 branch prediction scheme that we will discuss. One is static branch predictions, and the another is the dynamic branch prediction. In case of a static branch predictions, the prediction is done in the compile time. Look at you have not executed the program. The compiler is going to generate a code, and during the code that it generate, it able to predict that there is a branch instruction, and this branch instruction will take place or is not going to take place. So the prediction has to be done at the compile time. The other one is a dynamic branch prediction, where you're predicting at a runtime. So this is a runtime prediction. So the resources required for runtime predictions and for a dynamic prediction, the static predictions will be different. So when the compiler is going to predict, when the compiler is used for prediction, or when you are making a static predictions, then it needs a certain resources or some amount of information so that it can predict. And when you go for a dynamic predictions, then it needs some other resources so that dynamic predictions can be done. So let's look at what the static prediction, dynamic prediction, and we'll look at more detail on the dynamic and dynamic prediction in subsequent lectures. Now, in case of a static prediction, so a static prediction is done by the compiler. So in static predictions, you use the profile the compiler use the profile information collected from the previous run. From the previous run of the program, the branching, how the branch what are the behavior of the branch instruction, or how the branch instruction behave in the previous execution of the program. Once you collect those behavior and you had a profile of the branch behavior, then using that profile, the compiler can predict that the branch is going to take place or the branch is not going to take place. Then how does the compiler uses the key observations of any of the branch, that the behavior of branches is often bimodally distributed. Look at any branch instruction is a bimodal, whether it is a taken or it is not taken, and it's heavily dominated in one direction. If you look at a loop, in case of a loop, the branch is most of the time the branch is not going to take place. Most of the time the branch is taken. That means you execute a branch instructions, then again you enter back into the loop. So starting instruction in the loop. So the branch is not going to take place most of the time. And when the branch takes place, branch do not take. The branch is going to take place most of the time. And when the branch do not take place, you execute the next sequential instruction following the branch instruction. So it is it's a bimodal, and whether it's taken or it's not taken, and it's heavily in the direction of the taken or it's not taken. So a individual branch is highly biased toward taken or not taken. So if it is not taken, then most of the time it will be not taken, and if the branch is taken, then most of the time it will be taken. So it's heavily biased towards taken or it's not taken. The effectiveness of any branch prediction scheme so depends upon the accuracy of the scheme and frequency of the branch condition. Look at you are predicting, then what is the accuracy of the prediction, and the frequency in which the conditional branches occurs. Now frequency with the conditional branches, that it's the way the programmer is written, but you can improve upon the accuracy of the scheme. So if you have the prediction scheme, then it all depends upon what is the accuracy of the predictions, because on the accuracy of the predictions, depending on the accuracy of the predictions, you have to pay a penalty. If the prediction goes wrong, then you need to pay a penalty, and if your prediction is correct, then you are not going to pay any penalty. So this shows prediction rate for a spec 92, the benchmark. And if you look at this benchmark has a floating point program. It's there is a floating point integer program, and there is a floating point program. Now if you look at the miss rate, the miss rate for integer program is much higher than the miss rate for the floating point program, and the average if you look at the floating point program has an average miss rate of 9% with a standard deviation on 4%, and the integer program has an average miss rate of 15% with a standard deviation of 5%. And though the integer program has a higher miss rate than the floating point program, and the performance depends on both the prediction accuracy and the branch frequency, and the branch frequency varies from 3% to 24%. This is what is being observed, that in a typical program, the number of straight line codes without the branches varies from 4 without so the branch frequency is varies from 3% to 24%. This is what is being this is being observed by running a different the program. So the integer program says a higher branch has a higher miss prediction rate and a higher branch frequency. This is one of the limitations, that using the static predictions, that the branch frequency for the miss prediction for the integer program are more. Now let's look at the dynamic branch prediction technique and how it can be improved upon the static prediction. Now, in case of a dynamic predictions, the simplest dynamic branch prediction scheme is a branch prediction buffer, and this is also known as or the branch history table. It's a branch prediction buffer or a branch history table. Now, what is a branch prediction buffer? This is one of the simplest scheme. So a branch prediction buffer is a there is a background noise coming. Can you please turn off your let me mute everyone. Please do not unmute your system unless you want to ask the questions. The background noise is creating problem for me. A So one of the simplest dynamic branch prediction technique is using a branch prediction buffer, and the branch prediction buffer is also known as a branch history table. And let's look at what is this prediction buffer. This prediction buffer is a small memory indexed by the lower portion of the address of the branch instruction. So it's like something like the cache or small portion of the memory where the lower few bits of the branch instruction can be indexed into the branch prediction buffer, and you extract some information in the buffer. So what does this memory contain? The memory contains a bit. So the memory contains a bit. So this is a small memory. So if the memory size is 8, it's a 8 memory location, then we need a 3 bits. So lower 3 bits can be used. Lower 3 bits of the branch instruction can be indexed into this memory, and you extract the information from a specific location in the memory. So, but what does that the memory is going to contain? The memory contains a bit. It contains a single bit. A bit that's it, whether the branch was recently taken or the branch was not taken. So the small memory or the prediction buffer contain a 1 bit of information, and this 1 bit of information is simply says whether the branch was taken or the branch was not taken. So if you say the bit is set to 1, it may be interpreted as the branch is taken, and if the bit is set to 0, then it can be interpreted as the branch was not taken, or it can be a vice versa. But it contains a 1 bit of information, and extracting that bit of information will say if the branch was taken or the branch was not taken. Now this simple scheme is useful only when the branch delay is longer than the time to calculate the target address. So you index so what he said that this memory need to be indexed, and we extract a piece of information, and that piece of information will give the direction of the prediction whether the branch to be predicted is taken or the branch is not to be predicted is taken. And this scheme is useful only when the time to calculate the target address is more. Now let's look at what is the problem with this scheme. Now let's look at I will take a buffer with 2 bits. So 1, 2, 3, 4 memory locations. Now let's look at an address. Let's look at an address at, let's say, XX 00 AB 0. So this is my branch instruction. So this is a memory location. This contains a branch instruction. This also contains a branch instruction. Now when this is executed, it will index, let's say, to here, and will set some bit. So this is also a branch instructions. This lower order bits is also 0, 0. This will also index to 0. You will extract the information present here. Now this prediction bit. Now while executing these instructions, then using the lower 2 bit of the address to index into the memory and obtain a information. Let's say the branch was taken. It was the information stored here is a taken. So there you predict that the branch is going to take place. So you execute. Then one is prediction. The other one is what will the actual outcome of the branch. Now when the actual outcome of the branch becomes not taken, then this prediction bits need to be altered from taken. Then it has to be not taken. So this need to be inverted. So the prediction bit is inverted each time there is a wrong prediction. So you are predicting, then you execute the branch. Then when you execute the branch, then you'll able to know the actual outcome of the branch. Then when the actual outcome of the branch is different than the direction of the prediction, then the bit need to be inverted every time the prediction goes wrong. And this prediction buffer is a cache where the access is a hit. So here the access is always a hit. That means whether it will contain the prediction information, whether to be predicted taken or predicted to be it will not taken. So it is always a always a hit in the prediction buffer is always a hit. The performance of this prediction buffer depends on two things. One is I have already explained. So let me say how often the prediction is for the branch of the interest. Now this is what I've explained here. There are two instructions here, two branch instructions. Both have the lower order address 00. They are indexed into the same memory location. Now look at this is my prediction, the branch instruction, and this instruction has set to the prediction buffer. Now this is another branch instruction. So this is the information stored here. Whatever the information stored here is not for this branch instruction. This was for this branch instruction. So how often the prediction is for the branch of interest. So this is indexing into the lower order bits. This indexing into the memory, extracting the information, but the information stored here is not for this branch whose address is AB00, but it was for the branch whose address was XX00. So the performance of this buffer depends upon how often the prediction is for the branch of the interest, and second, how accurate the prediction is when it matches. Suppose how accurate the prediction is. Now this is indexing into the same memory location, and there is a prediction bit, and how accurate is the prediction. So it depends on these two parameters. Then the 1 bit prediction, this is we are having a buffer. The buffer contain a 1 bit of information. So this 1 bit prediction has a performance shortcoming. Now let's look at what is the performance shortcomings. Is even if the branch is almost always taken, it is likely to mispredict twice rather than once when it is not taken. Now let's look at a loop. In case of a loop, you majority of time you execute in the loop, and until only when you exit from the loop, the branch condition becomes false. Let's take an example of a loop. Now in case of a loop, let's say the last instruction is a branch instruction, and this says that your loop begins. This is your loop instruction. Somewhere that this is the first instruction. After executing this loop, again you go back. So majority of the time you execute this loop. Now so majority of the time execute the loop. So it says that branch taken. So from here you are executing to here, going to this list of the branch is always taken. Now what happens in the last iteration of the loop? In the last iteration of the loop, you are not going to enter into the loop. Rather you will go out of the loop and execute the next sequential instruction after the branch. So if this was at instruction I, the next sequential instruction will be at I plus 1, and this branch instruction is not taken. It is not taken. So the information stored at the memory location for this branch corresponding to the branch is not taken. Now you execute another branch instruction where the lower order address bits of this branch and the next branch is also same. So the lower order address bits map, and what is the information it contains? The information contains the branch is not going to take place. But since the branch instruction is going to take place, so fast miss occurs here. Then it execute. So it was not taken. The outcome of the branch will be taken. So it will flip the bit and it will store as a taken. So it will be executed in the loop. What happened to the last iteration of the loop? In the last iteration of the loop, the prediction is a taken prediction, but outcome will be a not taken. This is not taken, so it mispredicted twice. So the 1 bit prediction will have a performance shortcoming that even if the branch is almost always taken, and it is likely to mispredict twice when it is not taken. Once when it entered to the loop, and when it is going to exiting from the loop, 2 times it mispredict. So how to improve the performance of this 1-bit prediction? So from 1-bit predictions, you go for a 2-bit scheme. Now 2-bit scheme, in a 2-bit scheme, in a 1-bit scheme, if it mispredict, then immediately you invert the bit. So in a 2-bit scheme, the prediction must miss twice before it is changed. So if the prediction bit is to change, then it has to be missed for 2 times. Then
Hello, sir.
this, yes,
Hello.
yes.
Sir, in the last example, if the last time the branch instruction was taken, why the 1-bit buffer will say not taken? Can you please explain that again? I didn't get it.
Okay. So let's say this is my branch instruction with the address XX00. So this is my buffer. Okay. This is my buffer. Let's look at the steady state for this instruction. Now, so it is executing in the branch. So it was always a taken. What will happen to the last iteration of the loop? In the last iteration of the loop, it will not going to enter into the branch. It has to come out of the loop. So if it will come out of the loop, it will execute the next statement after this loop. So this is what is instruction I. The next is instruction I plus 1. So the prediction was taken in the last iteration. In the last iteration also you predict is a taken, but what will happen to the outcome of the branch? It has to go out of the loop. So this will has to be, the prediction goes wrong, this has to be not taken. Okay. So now I'll execute another branch instruction AB00. Now this is also a branch instruction. It will branch to execute some instruction. So it will index, let's say index 0. This is my 00. So index 0. So it is predicting the branch is not going to take place. So this is instruction at J. The next instruction should be at a J plus 1. So the branch instruction is at a J. The branch instruction is J, and the next instruction following the branch, next successor of this branch is J plus 1. So what will the prediction now? The prediction is not taken, but the branch is
Not
going. This
taken.
is the loop. So it is going to take. So it will flip the bit. So one mispredicted, right? So it will execute. The next iteration it will taken. So it will execute. Let's look at the last iteration of the loop. In case of a last iteration of the loop, so again the prediction is taken, but last iteration it has to go out of the loop. So the outcome is not taken. So it will flip this bit from taken. So it becomes not taken. So 2 times it mispredicts, even if the loop is taken most of the time. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we are talking from a 1-bit prediction in a 2-bit prediction. In a 2-bit prediction, you need to mispredict 2 times if you want to flip the prediction the bit. So the 2 bits, if it is a taken, then there is 2 bits is to be flipped. The 2 times you have to miss, then it becomes on taken. And if it is on taken, the 2 times you have to mispredict, so that it becomes a taken. And this a branch prediction buffer. So how do we implement now? So we had a prediction buffer. So how does the prediction buffer can be implemented? The a branch prediction buffer can be implemented is a special cache access with the instruction address during the instruction phase stage. So this is, I can have this one is a cache, and during the instruction phase stage, now look at what you are using. In the instruction phase stage, we know the address of the instruction to be the fetch, and you use the lower order few bits to access this particular the cache. So you can access within the instruction phase stage, or as a pair of bits attached to each block in the instruction cache. So when it accessing a block, so a pair of bit attached to the block, so we access that particular the pair of bit when accessing the cache and fetched with the instruction. So this can be implemented in either of the 2 bits. Let's now if the instruction decode, so what we have done, so it all depends upon how you are doing. So it can be during the, we can have a buffer, and in the buffer during the instruction phase stage you access the buffer also, and you get the information stored in the indexing the lower order address into the buffer. So you have fetched the information in the buffer. Now you go to the instruction decode stage. Now in the instruction, look at, you are fetching in the instruction fetch stage, and in the instruction fetch stage you do not know what type of instruction it is. The instruction that you have accessed may be an ALU instruction, or it may be an ALU immediate instruction, and or it can be a branch instruction, or it can be some other in memory instruction. So we do not know what type of instruction is, but what you are trying, you are accessing the buffer using the lower order address index, and we know that the read is a non-destructive process. You access it, and if you require, you use it. Otherwise, you can discard it. The only problem is if it is a power sensitive. If the design is a power sensitive, then we will be consuming the power. So in such case, there has to be some other mechanism. But we are not looking for power sensitive systems. So now the instruction is fetch, or while accessing the instruction cache, you access the bits attached to the block. That is something is being already accessed. So if the instruction is decoded in the branch, go to the instruction decode stage, then instruction decode is a branch. And if the branch is predicted is taken, so already you have fetches in the instruction fetch stage, you have already fetched whether whether the branch will be predicted or the branch is not will be predicted. That information is already available. If it is a branch instruction, then the prediction information is already available. And if the branch is predicted is taken, fetching begin from the target as soon as the program counter is known. Otherwise, sequentially fetch and start executing the instruction. So this is how the branch prediction buffer can be implemented. So let's look at how does the 2-bit scheme works. Now let's look at the 2-bit scheme. In case the 2-bit scheme is actually a generalization of a n-bit scheme, and this is a n-bit saturation counter. So the 2-bit scheme is the 2-bit scheme was actually a specialization of a general scheme of n-bit saturating counter entry in each buffer. With n-bit counter, the counter can take on the value from 0 to 2 to power n minus 1. Now when the counter is greater than or half the maximum value of 2 to power n minus 1, the branch is predicted is taken, otherwise the branch is predicted is not taken. So it simply says that if you had n bit, so you can compute of 2 to power n minus 1, that is the maximum value. For half of the value that it will be predicted is taken, for another half of the value it is predicted is not taken. So if it is equal half of this maximum value greater than the half of the maximum value, it is predicted is taken, otherwise it predicted is taken. And studies shows that a n-bit predictor, studies of n-bit predictor have shown that a 2-bit predictor do almost as well. Thus the system rely on 2-bit branch prediction rather than a generalization of n-bit predictor. Now let's look at how does the 2-bit. So a 2-bit prediction is basically a special case of a n-bit prediction, and the studies have seen that instead of having a n-bit saturation counter, a 2-bit counter is well enough. Now let's look at, so what does the 2-bit counter counts? The 2-bit counter counts from 0, so 0 0 0 1 1 0 and 1 1. So half of them will be considered as a not taken, and half of the time will be just taken. So this is my taken and this is my not taken. Now in this case, suppose your predictor is not taken. So your predicting is not taken. So you are in 0. Let's say you are in 0 0 and 0 0 say predicted is not taken, and you are predicting it. What is the actual outcome? If your actual outcome is not taken, then you remain in the state 0 and 0. So the 2 bits remain in 0 0. Now your predicted is not taken is 0 0, and you execute the instructions in the direction of not taken, but the actual outcome is taken. So the actual outcome is taken. Outcome is taken. Then from 0 0 it becomes 0 1. Then this becomes again it was not taken. 0 1 is also not taken. So once mispredicted, your predicted is not taken, outcome was taken, so one mispredicted. Suppose next time the prediction is not taken. You are predicting is a not taken, and again you mispredict. Again it is a taken. The outcome is actually taken, 2 times mispredict. One time mispredict here, the other time the mispredict here. 2 times it mispredict, then it is becomes a predicted as a the taken. Now you are predicted as a not taken. You are in state 0 and 1. This is the value of the bits 0 and 1. Predicted is a not taken, and actually it is not taken. Then your prediction becomes bits is set to 0 and 0. So here also the predicted is a, if you are at a 1 and 1, your predicted is a taken, and the outcome is also a taken, then you remain in the same bit. So you have to mispredict 2 times to the flip the bit. This shows the prediction accuracy of a, again for a, it uses a spec 89 the benchmark program, and the size of the buffer is 4096 entry, so it is 4K. It's a 4K entry, 2-bit prediction buffer. Now if you look at the misprediction rate for integer benchmark, so these are my integer benchmarks. The misprediction rate for the integer benchmark is substantially higher than the floating point programs. These are the floating point programs, and it's substantially higher for the floating point programs, and the average for the integer program is 11%, and the average for the floating point program is the 4%. So this is with a 4 KB size buffer, and let's look at the next one with the comparison between a 4 KB. What is the size of the buffer? So you are doing a misprediction. So it says if you increase the size of the buffer, then you will able to store more information. So the misprediction rate, the prediction accuracy can be increased, or the misprediction rate can be reduced. So this was a comparison between a size of the buffer is 4096, so 4K entry buffer with 2 bit per entry, and we had a unlimited size buffer with a 2-bit entry, and it shows that this is the prediction accuracy of a 4K entry with 2-bit prediction buffer versus a infinite buffer for a spec 89 benchmark. And it is it's what it says, a 4K entry is sufficient for the capture the prediction rate of a limited entry. So instead of having a larger cache size, a 8 KB cache is enough to capture a larger portion of your the misprediction for a spec 89 benchmark. So if you change this benchmark from spec 89 to spec 92, maybe the buffer size has to be increased. It all depends on, for this particular benchmark program, it was found that 8K entry is enough. Next class we'll discuss the implementation of the MIPS pipeline, but at 10:45 a quiz will come, and the quiz has to be answered within 10:55. So you can transit from you go to the general class, and you look at for a quiz. It come exactly at 10:40 and to stop at 10:55.